True Peace Ken's Pennsylvania professor teaches white people committing suicide can be an ethical act. Man, people slang. Critics are slamming the professor comments as pure evil and racist. Man, peep the slang. A professor employed at a Catholic university in Pennsylvania said on camera there are merits to the claim that it's ethical for white people to commit suicide. White people should commit suicide as an ethical act, said a quote in a slide for a presentation hosted by Duquesne University psychology professor Derek Hook. Man, peep the slang.
He made the assertion that white people should commit suicide as an ethical act. And here's a quote from him directly. The reality in South Africa today is that most white people spend their whole lives only engaging black South Africans in subservient positions. My question is then how can a person not be racist if that's the way they live their lives? The only way then for white people to become part of Africa is not to exist as white people anymore. If the goal is to dismantle white supremacy, and white supremacy is white culture, then the goal has to be to dismantle white culture and ultimately white people themselves. The total integration into Africa by white people will also automatically then mean the death of white people as white as a concept would not exist anymore. So here's the kind of crazy gambit of this talk. I want to suggest that psychoanalytically we could even make the argument that there was something ethical in Delport's sayings. Now, I suppose, parenthetically, we could say that Delport's kind of a young, fired-up academic, and maybe there's a little bit too much of a dramatization in some of his comments, but nevertheless, I want to make the argument that there is some kind of ethical dimension to his provocations. I think that Delport took his white audience to the threshold of a type of symbolic extinction, or at least the contemplation of what that might be. He took them to a proposed end of whiteness. Or, in more psychoanalytic terms, we could say that Delport offered his white audience the opportunity, one they didn't seem to appreciate for the most part, but the opportunity to contemplate what we could call the castration of whiteness.
Keep the same. The lecture, which presented to Baltimore-based American Associated for Psychoanalysts in Clinical Social Work in June, Hook quoted a South African philosophy professor, Terblanche Delport, who has written about white people committing suicide in South Africa, before further discussing the comments and arguing there was something ethical in Delport's statement. The reality in South Africa is that most white people spend their whole lives only engaging black people in subservient positions. My question is then now, how can a person not be racist? Well, we heard this, man, peep the slang.